Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the June 6th County Commissioners meeting. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first thing we have on our agenda are our minutes. Gentlemen, do we have any additions, corrections?
I do not.
No.
Okay.
I move to approve the proceedings of the Board of County Commissioners for Montezuma County for Tuesday, May 23rd, as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept the proceedings of the Board of Commissioners, Montezuma County for May 23rd, 2023. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next up we have planning. Come on down.
Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead. It looks like we have a discussion for an approval of an exemption application.
Exemption application,
So,
correct.
Give us the overview on that, Don.
This is application from the Keuren Living Trust with a boundary line adjustment that requires this exemption application. We're doing an exemption application just to try and resolve a court case that's been going on for a couple of years, and part of the settlement agreement is the transfer of property. In pulling the acreage from the Keuren Living Trust property, it will bring it below 35 acres versus going through the subdivision process and then having the Akina property try and take that property over in a boundary line adjustment to get their buildings compliant on the northwest corner. It's best just to do an exemption so that we can get that parcel out of the Keuren property and adjoin it to the Akina property.
And there is a plat in Dropbox.
So this is a court,
It was a court case that I believe went to an arbitrator, and this is part of their settlement agreement, is to resolve the dispute over the purchase of that north property out of the Keuren property.
So it's not court ordered. What it is
Okay.
it's a stipulated settlement that the parties have entered into to resolve what I understand has been ongoing litigation for quite some time. I see Mr. Savastano on the line. He can probably speak to the details of the court case a little bit more than I can.
okay.
Good morning. Yes, I'm happy to answer any sort of questions you might have.
Well, I guess the only question that I have, and I think you've kind of explained it, is it because of the loss of property, it's gonna be below the 35 acres.
Correct.
So that's the whole reason for the exemption. It's something that they've all agreed upon. But because it's below the 35 acres, the exemption takes care of moving it into a subdivision.
Correct.
Okay. I'm clear then.
I don't have anything for you. Gerald, you?
Commissioner?
I'm just trying to figure out what they changed here.
So the north, I believe it's 7.5 acres there. In the dark black line,
Oh, yeah, okay.
that will come out of Keuren property and go to the Akina property, which is on the north and the west, thereby eliminating the 3 buildings built on the property line from Akina.
So then those are all will be then compliant within the 30 foot.
Correct. And it will resolve the dispute issue that they've had ongoing and now have agreed in a settlement agreement, but this will be to solidify that and transfer the property.
Okay, I think I'm,
And both these parties have agreed to this settlement.
Correct.
Okay. I
you
don't
know,
have
there's
any
no,
problem.
there's nothing that we have to.
No, I don't think there's anything, I mean, this is a stipulated settlement and the parties have agreed, and so this is something that was, my understanding is the court ordered the parties to enter into negotiations, and so they reached a resolution, and so now this just allows them to go through with the
Correct,
stipulation.
and the
that
only
they've reached.
reason that we're looking at is because of the 35-acre exemption.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Gerald, sir, may I ask you a question? Keuren Living Trust, I'm representing Living Trust.
Actually, it's not a public.
It's not a
in
public hearing.
Public comment or a
No.
public hearing, so I really can't allow it, so sorry.
She is one of the parties involved.
Well,
If you'd
I'm
like for
just
her to
saying,
come up and,
it looks like they've all agreed,
Mhm.
and they've went through the
So I-
court order to agree. The only thing we're looking at is the exemption of the 35 acres.
So
Yeah.
I think that, given that it is one of the parties, if she wants to come up and say something, she certainly can. I mean, we have Mr. Savastano on the line representing the other
He's-
side.
Okay,
So,
well then,
Yep.
all right.
Ian, my question really would go to you because I think you'd best be able to answer. On the plat, the survey plat that you're going to be asked to sign is the other party, Akina LLC. Is there a reason that that has to be Akina LLC and not, say, Mr. Fergus, who may be a member of that entity? I just want clarification. It's not going to change
The-
anything. It's simply
the
clarifying.
property's in the ownership of the LLC, correct?
The
Correct.
adjoining property, yes,
Yeah,
the
and
neighbor.
so if the
Correct.
property's in the ownership of the LLC, then it should be the LLC's name on that property, or
Okay.
up on that, yep. And so
Okay.
certainly a representative member from that LLC can sign, but the LLC is the one that should be on the deed.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
That's it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
I would so move we approve the exemption application submitted by Keuren Living Trust and Akina LLC on properties located at 12403 Road 22, Cortez.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve an exemption application submitted by Van Keuren Living Trust and Akina LLC on properties located at 12403 Road 22, Cortez, Colorado. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, there you go, sir.
And we do have that exemption and the plat for signature.
Okay, we'll get through this other business and then we'll roll them all out at one time.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Savastano. The next application is a variance application from Leslee Ham on their property out on Highway 160. It's the all-weather storage property. There you go. That top map's right there is fine if you want to zoom into that. So on the west side of that property, they are looking to put up another metal building that would extend to the south. On that building, the east side is compliant with the setback. On the southwest corner, I think it's short, how much less, 3 feet?
I'll give you guys my drawing,
Right.
It's on the,
Application.
scroll down a little bit.
because we want to do
No,
this
the other
one
way, the other way.
and this one here
Okay.
is 3 feet short.
So because that property line angles, it is 3 feet short of being 25 feet. It's a commercial PUD. The commercial zoned property to the south, so the setback requirement's 25 feet, not 30. What we changed in the land use code was only on residential properties. So the 26 feet is compliant, the 22 feet is 3 feet short. And so he is requesting a variance there on that corner of the building.
So the 22 feet is on the south,
Southeast corner. That
East
property
corner,
line runs at an
which
angle.
is right
so-
next to that little road, the road behind it?
No, there ain't, there's 20, 30 feet that the road goes down to the canal for the canal people.
Mm-hmm.
So this is to the west of that access road.
Okay. So the J.25 you're compliant with,
Correct.
it would be the 29.25.
Yeah.
It's the property line if J.25 extended west.
So does that, how big is our roadway there? Does that goof, well, that's
No,
a
it
red
don't mess
road
with the
anyway, right?
roadway. All it does is mess, I talked to my neighbors, got them all to agree on it. The guidelines in this book in here is it's a PUD,
Mm-hmm.
a subdivision, so according to the way I understand it, since I own 70, or majority of the property, we can change these guidelines.
I don't think you can change the setbacks. We can't change the
He
setbacks.
could if they went through to amend the setbacks of
Oh.
a PUD, but versus
Within the PUD.
within
Yes.
the PUD.
Okay, gotcha.
And this is within a common lot line of Lot 1 and Lot 2. And he has a non-opposition letter from the owners of Lot 2.
Which is on the other side, the west side of the road,
No, the south side.
South.
or,
So the little building on the west, this new structure would go just south of that, towards the south property line in yellow.
Right over there right there where your dot is.
yeah.
The southwest corner is compliant, the southeast corner is 3 feet shy of being compliant with 25 feet.
Because of the angle of the property.
Right.
And I could go in and get it, like Don was saying, really the road is what should divide the property. But Ernest owns the road. Lot 1 and Lot 2 and 3 own the road right there, and I should own half of that road, but I gotta make amends to go get it.
So let me just ask you a simple question. It's 3 feet short on the south side. Are you attaching it to the building that's there?
Yes,
And that still keeps you 3 feet
yes,
shy? Gotcha.
only in that one corner.
Sure, right. Yeah, the other side as the property grows in.
If I take where it goes right down the middle of the road, then I'll be fine. And I should own half of the road, and my other neighbor should own the other half.
I understand. Question, gentlemen?
So that's the first part of that building. The second part is commercial property adjacent to residential property is a 50-foot setback.
To the west.
So to the west, this would line up with what's already existing. He's got a non-opposition letter with the owner to the west. This would just stay in the same line as the existing building.
And
35 feet,
how much?
35.
So the existing building's out of compliance with the setbacks as it currently sits?
Well, it was grandfathered in.
Okay.
So I guess
Yeah,
attaching
but
to
move
it, it would
To
be
move it
part.
50 feet, another 20 feet This
Puts it-
way is
puts it in the
gonna
road.
shorten your building to nothing.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm in the driveway then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the building would be only about 8 feet long, or deep, however you look at it.
So really what's grandfathered in is the building as it exists now. If you add on to it, then you're in essence you're gonna have to grant an exemption for the entire structure now.
So it would be the
Correct.
west side and the south side. The exemption would be both sides.
Correct. That's building number 1. Building number 2 is on the north end of that existing structure. And he's wanting to have it extend to the north. And in doing so, it does not meet the 50-foot setback from CDOT's right-of-way. So that would be a variance there as well.
What's that distance?
25 feet?
So is there anything else? Or
No.
is it just those three sides?
Yeah, it's all on that same set of buildings, but an addition to the south and an addition to the north.
And the least exemption would be 22 feet then?
Yeah, the least is
The-
22.
The south is a 3-foot variance, the west is a 15-foot variance, the north is a 25-foot variance.
So certainly this is somewhat of a unique situation that we have some buildings that are grandfathered in. And so, conceivably, in these sorts of situations, a variance may be appropriate in order to fully develop the property, so to speak, and keep the buildings in line. These are large variances, though, and anytime you grant a variance of this sort, it certainly sets a precedent for future grants as well. I'm always a bit uncomfortable with variances because I think when you start granting variances, you set a precedent moving forward that if a similar situation comes up, then all of a sudden you're going to have to grant that variance in a similar circumstance too. Again, I think this is somewhat unique in that we've got buildings that are grandfathered in, and so with the building sitting where they currently sit, perhaps it makes some sense to grant the variance in order to allow for a build out of the property. It would be a little bit odd to honor the variance and then disconnect those buildings, and so maybe that's what makes this situation unique. I think that's what this commission has to look at is whenever you're going to grant a variance, I think it's appropriate in situations that are unique.
Well, I like that he has a non-opposition letter from the west and to the south. I mean, to me, that makes sense. Neighbors are working together, and, I mean, I've always liked that, because you've talked to your neighbors, and that's, I think, is the first step in being a good neighbor, is to go talk to them. I don't have an issue with that. My issue is with CDOT. But here again, it's our land use code.
Right,
They're still outside of the right-of-way,
Correct. CDOT has no say-so.
Yeah.
and that's the 25-foot variance.
Correct.
So it would be within 25 feet of the property line instead of the 50 feet of the property line.
Correct. And it's an extra wide right-of-way there. It's ridiculous wide. I don't know what happened there, but they obtained that.
Yeah, I can see that from that west property line, it juts down significantly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I figure if I have to give up 25 of my feet of my property, CDOT should have to give up their 25 feet of their property. We're at 50 feet.
Well,
I don't disagree
I
with
pay
you.
taxes on my property.
you go wrestle with that 800-pound gorilla, that's not our choice.
Actually, I talked to CDOT, and CDOT says, as long as I'm not on their property,
Yeah, they don't,
they don't care.
I
Don't
don't
put
think
nothing
they
on
care.
my property.
Right.
I said, it ain't on your property.
okay, I think we have the three items. 3 foot to the south, what'd you say, 20
15 feet to the west?
to the
I believe?
west and 25 to the north?
You have that on your sketch. Can you go to this, scroll up to the sketch there, Travis, if you would? Yeah.
So west is up on the top.
Right, west is on the top of that sketch at 35 feet. So it'll be a 15-foot setback to the west and 25 foot to the north.
Commissioners, questions?
I don't have any questions right now.
When did he build these buildings to begin with?
We're putting 9 there, and then I want to put one big one there.
No,
At the
when?
end. I don't know, I'm doing it as I can afford it.
They bought the property
We
with
bought
it all
the property
existing. They've only owned it for what, 3 years?
4
3 4
years.
years?
So this building, I think what your question is, when was the original building
Yeah, 'cause
constructed?
it was,
It's probably,
Probably 2010.
yeah, I would say 10 to 12.
because we did this before, when I was in here before. So saying it's grandfathered
Oh, yeah,
So the
bothers me
variance
a little
was
bit,
given
because
then.
that's not grandfathered. That's after the land use code was in effect.
So
And we did this commercial development, as a commercial development back then, when I was here before.
So it wasn't grandfathered in, was this granted through a variance, or what was the circumstance that allowed the setback
would have-
violations to happen?
that I would have to double check on.
I guess
On
that's
what-
what concerns me is where,
So I think that's a critical piece of information
Yeah.
that we need.
because we did
Because
this when I was here before. When I was serving as commissioner before, we did this commercial development around there.
Right.
So that's the only thing that
It
concerns
was
me
my
is what-
understanding that that building was there, though, when that was created.
I don't think so.
I think
All that
for
was
granting a
constructed
variance, I
after
think
that.
it's a critical piece, because if that's not grandfathered in, then we've got to find out how that happened. Because if it's
So it-
grandfathered in, then it makes the property different, and it's easier to justify a variance. If it's not grandfathered in, then you're in a situation where, well, why is it there? How is it there? And are you just, in essence, allowing a variance on a commercial property just because you have non-opposition letters? And if that's the grounds for the variance, then pretty soon, anytime you come up with a variance request and you've got non-opposition letters, then you're going to be in a position where you're going to have to grant it.
I guess the flip side of that is the PUD. I don't know which was created first, the building or the PUD. If the PUD was created after the building existed, then that was accepted in that PUD. And so it would not be a variance.
I think it's all critical information that we're missing at this point. And so, it may be in everybody's best interest to continue this for 1 week, get those details, and then reassess it at that point in
Yeah,
time.
we can double check on that building.
I disagree with that. Where I'm at with it is, the building's been there. I went and talked to all my neighbors, their appliance. You guys, it's my property. I should be able to do what I want on my property. I pay taxes on it.
I'm sorry, are you part of the ownership too, ma'am? Then come on down and I'll give you a mic too, because if I don't have you guys on the mic, they can't hear what's going on out there in the TV
No,
land.
he told me to come up. My question is if we're going back to the pre-owners, why wouldn't the land and title company catch anything that wasn't grandfather lot in? Why, I mean, we bought a building, because I paid insurance. If anything comes back, then the land and title's gonna have to pay me if there's problems with the property.
I don't,
Why wouldn't they catch that?
I don't think we can answer that question as far as a land and title company. My obvious thought would be is if they do an ILC, an ILC just says, yeah, all your structures are on the piece of property. it doesn't necessarily say it complies with any setbacks. So if you got an ILC when you bought the piece of property, it says, yes, they all reside on the piece of property. So, but here again, we're not land and title.
Okay.
People
I'll go find
can't
out.
answer that. You would have to ask them that question.
Right, okay.
I mean, if we could just wait a week and clear some of these up, cross these Ts and dot these Is, make sure we know when the building was put there. And when the PUD was created, we can go from there.
I know, it's kind of crazy, you know, you guys just saying that one board can grant it. I see that you guys have to cross your Ts and dot your Is because I'm in healthcare. But it's kind of crazy that people need to get more involved, is what I'm saying. Because if one board can build this, like you say, Gerald, that you were involved in this in the very beginning, then now this board can go and say something different. I get that he's saying you guys need to cross your Ts and dot your Is, because that's very concerning as a person when you spend $1 million on a property.
Well, and the land use code has changed also. So as those things change, we work within what the changes are. So the variance right now.
Let's go. Let him
Is what we have. So we'll look at this information, but go ahead.
What I was saying, since I'm own more of the property, can I go in there and change the codes? Change my setbacks? I'm primary landowner in that subdivision.
Where did Don go to?
Let's just let them do their
So-
stuff, babe.
So it sounds like you have the opportunity, and here again, Don's not in here, but it sounds like you have the opportunity to move your setbacks within the PUD.
But I feel like that's what we did when we had a meeting and we had all these people sign it, right?
So,
So we had
no.
the entire group in a meeting who came in as our subdivision, and we gave them the plans, and we said, this is what we want to do. Can we do this? And they all signed yes, including Mrs., what's that lady's name?
Underwood.
Sutherland.
Ms.
I understand that, but the information that we have now is that Commissioner Copenhaver has brought up that we were just told that it was grandfathered. Was it grandfathered? It was after the land use code, so we just need a little more time to look into it. Give us a week, and then we can address it with all of the information in front of us.
Let's go.
And we'll
I'm
put it-
disappointed in you guys.
Put it on the agenda for next week.
So my last question is, so once you cross your Ts and dot your Is, it'll be final, right?
We'll make.
No decision's
Do we
been
need
made
to
at this
bring an
point.
attorney with
We'll-
us
We'll make a final decision.
to represent us in our land codes, or are you guys working for us? I guess I've never done this before.
We
I'm
work
a little
for
more
all of the
aggressive than he
people.
is.
The land use code was voted on by the people, and that's what we have to go by. Right now, the land use code says, these are the setbacks. You are asking for a variance to be outside of those setbacks on 3 sides, the north, the west, and the south. So, if we go by what the land use code says without a variance, you are out of compliance.
Okay.
Okay,
And
you
I
voted,
understand
you
that.
voted on the land use code, maybe not you specifically, but when the land use code was voted in, that's the guidance they gave us. We
Right.
represent all of the people, and that's what
I get
we're
that.
representing today.
Okay.
And I went through, and I did talk to my neighbors, and they all agreed. So to me, once they agreed on it, I should be able to go forward. And my honest opinion, you guys shouldn't have anything to say. I'm not being mean, but I talked to my neighbor,
We're not taking it that way.
you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Now, if my neighbor was in here arguing with me, then I
So,
can see it.
so we're just asking for 1 week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
I did find I didn't find the plat, but there's a recorded map on an amendment of that PUD in '09, but I'll have to double check.
In '09, so that was when you were here?
I'll have to check and see the exact, when
Okay,
that was
well,
created.
we'll look into it further.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We'll go from there. We'll keep it on the agenda for next week. Okay,
Fair enough.
all right, moving on to number 3.
Number 3 and number 4 are just signatures of the Mylars on previously approved subdivision amendment and boundary line adjustment.
So now we have 3 Mylars to sign.
We got 3.
Okay.
3 and an exemption.
And I also have, the high impact permit for, materials for line camp.
Line camp,
Okay.
high impact permit. all we have for now.
Okay. Look into that, obviously, and then get us some information, and then we'll have that on the agenda
Yeah.
for next week.
Yeah, I apologize for that. That 50-foot commercial to residential is one thing we have to keep track of. So we accounted for the other two, and we'll check and see what the parameters of that PUD were.
Right. So, thank you. Appreciate
Sure.
it.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, next up, we have our public comment session. The Montezuma County Commissioners welcomes you to this meeting. Persons speaking during public comment will be limited to 3 minutes, or depending on the number of people wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all the members of the public the opportunity to address the board. When addressing the board, please state your name and address for the record prior to providing your comments, and comments to individual supervisors or staff are not permitted, and participants may not yield their time to others. With that, the public comment session is open.
Good morning,
Morning.
Morning.
everyone. Susan Chemnitz, 511 South Cedar Street, Cortez. And I just wanted to comment on the housing survey. So I got this postcard in the mail, and it was kind of vague about how I could do the survey, because it was like, well, maybe you'll get one in the mail. And I was like, okay. And I didn't trust that, so I went and did it myself online. But I have some problems, a lot of problems with the survey. It seemed to be very unscientific, because it would ask you questions, but it would force you to answer a certain way. So it wouldn't say, you know, I think there was one question where it gave you a chance to say other. But all the rest of the questions were like, you have to answer whatever they have down there. And it wasn't until the end of the survey that I could actually put what I actually chose to say. And so I think you should throw this survey out. And I was talking to somebody about it, and they actually said, you can go in and do this as many times as you want. And I'm like, well, that's very unscientific. And I was like, that can't be true. So I went in there and I tried to go in again, and it let me go in there. Now, I didn't go through the whole survey, but it let me answer questions again, like it was going to take it again. And I'm like, that can't be right. How can you just go in and take a survey, one person, as many times as you want? Which I wouldn't normally do, but I just wanted to check and see if it was going to let me do that. So, like I said, I think you should throw this thing out. It's not a good survey. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Morning.
I am James Russell Myers. I live at 41777 Highway 184, Banks, Colorado. At this time, I'd like to personally thank Montezuma County and the state of Colorado for having respect, integrity, courage, and honor. This is for the approval of a known program called Death with Dignity, a program I now qualify for. I would also like to take this time to publicly state to you that there are very questionable acts being committed in Montezuma County. I have recently received in the mail and have reported the following. It appears there are now several false public records, and in these public records there appears to be a form of forgery that indicates fraud. It appears this has now evolved into extortion of sorts. Property rights in your county have been wrongfully taken, and it appears these acts are possibly by a previous county employee using their previously held position with the courts and the sheriff's office, as the discovery revealed some time ago. I do ask the commission to launch an investigation using an outside law enforcement and a review of your court documents showing civil rights violations, as well as violations of the Colorado law enacted to be for the protection of the people. I state this as fact, and with my previous experience as a legal representative in federal court, Washington, D.C., I do state these as fact. Furthermore, I will forward information to each and every one of you to the nature of the acts, as it appears this liability ultimately falls upon you. Thank you for your time. Respectfully, James Myers.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. My name is Alan Mays, 21693 County Road 21. That last comment makes me want to look into some things. But anyway, so I appreciate the fact that you guys are willing to listen to the public. My comment follows a previous commenter as well on the land use code and the survey. I didn't receive a mailer, so when I heard that, that was interesting to me. I have seen the online, but if that's just a way to get to it, if that's what the mailer does, I don't know. But anyway, my comments at a previous commission meeting were that I don't feel that the county commissioner should be involved in building out in the county other than following the land use code as they are presented to you through P&Z. And not encouraging, low-income housing or affordable housing out in the county. There is a 1 mile zone right now with the city of Cortez that is probably the area that should be looked at. Sooner or later, city of Cortez is probably going to be looking at annexing more land in. But those, the land use code should be followed as closely as possible, so I do appreciate that you are talking about that, especially with what was presented by planning and by the planning department today. Those are the types of questions that we do need to make sure are there. I don't want to see a commercial PUD or affordable housing project out in the county when that's probably not the place for it. There's lots of reasons. Cost of driving back and forth, affordable housing, that's just going to be one more thing that people will have to deal with. People are under constraints for being able to buy even their groceries. So when we look at affordable housing, we need to look at where that's best suited and not in the ag community. So anyway, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next. Okay, seeing no other comments, we'll close the public comment session of this meeting, and we're going to go right on down to the department reports. First up, we have Road and Bridge. Rob Engelhart, come on down.
Morning.
Morning, Rob.
Good morning.
How are you guys?
Good, how are you?
Good. So we'll go through our activities for June. Wrapping up the end of May there. We did close Road N on the 30th of May to begin the Alkali Creek Bridge project, and that's been moving along since then and doing very well. We also were doing mag chloride in the Cortez and Dolores districts. We'll wrap up the Cortez Dolores districts on the mag this week, probably actually as late as today or early tomorrow, and then move them out to the Roundup, and they'll continue with that operation out there. We're also showing the Alkali Creek Bridge for the next 120 days as being a part of the activities too, so you'll see this on every calendar now until the bridge is built. The third week, the 19th, it's a busy week. We've got chip seal starting on that Road 2930 project on going up to Highway 184. We'll start that on Monday morning. That's about 3 days of work, and we've got the fourth day built in there for float in case it rains or we get in trouble with something. Elam wants to start on their airport project the 19th. They figure about 5 days down there to wrap that up. And then Four Corners is starting their part of that paving plan on the 21st, if all goes well. And then they're carrying it out to the 5 days the following week, to the end of the month, just for general purposes. We do need to trim a little bit off of the Lost Canyon Bridge. We're a little thick there. Talking to the bridge inspectors, we're going to trim that down to about 3 inches of gravel and then put the 4 inches of asphalt on top of that, so we don't have an overload restriction on that bridge. So, just out of curiosity, if you're interested.
Yeah, because I was
Bridge
gonna ask.
restrictions, you know,
Yeah.
so it is heavy.
What
I mean,
is the
it's
restriction
18
on that
it's
bridge?
It's 17 inches thick now with gravel, no asphalt on it. It was just all gravel.
It's just all gravel.
Yeah, and there is a metal membrane on the decking of the wood decking, so we don't have to take that all off. We'll just trim down to about 3 inches of gravel and pave 4 inches on that, so, which gives us future more repairs. We can pave it down the road if something goes wrong, or 20 years from now, we want to put another layer of asphalt on it. So, and then now the guardrails will all be raised on that. I did talk to Gonzalez, and his schedule works real well with this. Now he can get the guardrails at Airport Road put up for us and Road S within just a few days after the paving's done. So that'll all go. Painters are online. As soon as everybody gets done, they come over one time and paint stripe those roads and get them cleaned up for us.
So I noticed a cut in the asphalt down on 23 Road yesterday. And we're still going to take out that little
Yes, sir.
curve or what?
That acceleration thingamajig?
Yeah, that actually throws people in the traffic
Yeah.
zone. Okay.
Yeah, it'll
So
come
that
straight,
will come
it'll be a
out.
90-degree turn off the airport road. That'll all be, in fact, that little aesthetic sign area and the lowest point there, it'll drain back towards the south. By doing that, we'll take that road out and cut a bar ditch back to the south to drain that hole, so it won't be filling up with water.
Okay.
So that'll all just be a nice sloped off ditch to carry water back out of there. Everybody else come straight to G Road and turn right or left off of that road to G, so.
Correct.
Just like we talked last
Yeah.
year, so. And we are getting in there before the airport expansion or whatever we're doing there on their stuff. And so ours will be in, and that way they can build to us, and it'll just simplify the whole thing for the city of Cortez too on that part of it. Just makes it easier for their engineers to tie into us then, so.
Okay.
And then the last week of the month, we'll continue with the mag chloride, and then and that'll be mostly out in the Roundup district. We'll take care of all that Kinder Morgan work that we do every year with them, and take care of all that, get it all cleaned up, and we're all done. So, any questions on activities? Okay, I brought some pictures first, if you can. Travis, there. So this is the opening day of the bridge removal. They got started right on schedule, and just a couple of pictures. They're removing the chip seal on the east side of the bridge up to about, I think it's a couple hundred feet up there, because that whole new approach has to be realigned a little bit to get the length of the bridge. And then they're building this was to catch any dirt, dust, or particles of lead possibly off the beams from falling into the creek, you know. I thought DNL did a really clever idea there. They built that tray down there and then put tarp on it, and they'll pick that tarp up when they're all done, like a folded up umbrella or something, and pick up everything and pull it out of there without contaminating. I think it was pretty clever on how to come up with that. Another view of that east side of the bridge where they're taking up the chip seal. And then the last one, we are building a bridge now. No choice now, so here we go. They got that out yesterday right on schedule. It lifted all them beams out of there and had no issues, had a crane down there, and it went very well and very safe, and it was a good job. So now they're continuing with removing the earth embankments on each side and taking the head walls down and cut the beams out of there and be ready to cut their foundation in for their new abutments. So moving along well. So just a little follow-up on the bridge. Now this is a letter from DMRS that we received, and technically they still have 30 days for public notice to clear, but we have been released of our obligations for seeding or managing that 16.99 acres, I believe it was, we turned over to, 96 acres we turned over to Mancos. So if there's no public input that argues with it, then in 30 days this will become done. So we're finally there. Took a while.
Back to Mancus.
Yes. Yeah, Mancus has the land, but they just don't have the clearance on this yet, so.
Correct.
And I think we did send a letter over to the town board, but remember, they still have 30 days for public comment, so if everything goes well, it'll be all wrapped up. Dolores Norwood Road. The Forest Service was awarded $6 million to pave from Butler's Corner to the county line, but unfortunately, it won't be till 2025. It comes out of that infrastructure bipartisan bill, so it won't be available till 2025, but good news, they are gonna pave it. And I believe it's a 4-inch lift of asphalt, so. In the meantime, they've asked us to look at doing some pave patching on some of the worst, and they're finding funds to pay for that, which I said, sure, if you can find the funds. And I've been told that by August, they should have funds for that to do some pave patching in there.
Good.
It's kind of a long ways to wait, but we should be able to get asphalt from Darren Stone. He's firing up his hot plant. If all goes well, we don't have to drive clear to Durango to get it. So kind of wait a little bit here will pay everybody to wait a little bit, so. There are some deep potholes, and we'll go up and take care of the actual potholes. But the delamination of the chip seal on top of their old asphalt, there's just not much we can do till we get pave patching up there. So we'll just have to bear with it for a while. We are opening up the Beaver Rim Pit this week. We put a gate in yesterday and put some rocks around it and getting ready to start moving equipment up. We're gonna move some brush and trees out of the way to let the loggers in behind us to the south of us. And it won't be a big deal to us, but we should be hopefully moving the crusher in by late this week or early next week, start that process and get up and get going. They're wanting that first 50,000 ton to do Boggy Draw Road. That's the first on their list to start doing that Boggy Draw Road and graveling it, which looking at the other day, it needs it. So they're excited about getting their gravel. So.
The main road from the bottom off
You
of
know where Boggy
W.
Draw is, right where the pit is?
Yep.
That goes back, that starting right there.
Taken out from there.
And where they go, I'm not sure. I didn't get that detailed with them, but that's the first project that they were talking about doing, so, which is good. So that's moving forward. Other than that, we're just trying to get this chip seal up and going. It's been a battle trying to get all this winter work done and then get going on chip seal, and not being able to get asphalt readily and do the blade patching we like to do before we put that maintenance course on. So we still hope to get started with that sometime in June. So I didn't put it on the schedule because I wasn't quite sure we'd make it, so maybe more like July. So other than that, that's about all I got.
Questions, gentlemen?
No, I don't have any. You've been busy.
Yeah, very busy, yeah. So we are rebuilding a section of Road V. There's a piece out there that's probably 200 feet long that we have just struggled with since, that was the first chip seal job I did in 2014 with the county. So it's 9 years old now, so it's time to be reworked this year, and it's on the list. But there was a section there about 200 feet long that just would not hold up whether we paved it or not. So we got to digging and we ran into a spring, which is usually what it usually is, water coming under the chip seal. And so we dug a nice ditch on the north side to cut the water off, and we were already seeing water perking out from under the roadway. And we're building it up with some of our Ormiston gravel to give it a barrier between the new chip seal and that. And I think it's going to be a success, but that has been a problem since 2014. So we think we're well on our way to fixing that problem.
So I do have one question. It was via the email that I sent to you yesterday that we got. So I'm curious of how, you know, in that email it states that they've talked to road crews several times and that it's always on the schedule for next year since 1969. So, well, that's what it says.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm curious of how does that come about? Because I've never seen it on any schedule, and it's a private subdivision.
Well, I'm sure that it's a standard answer by all operators to prevent an argument in the middle of the road by saying, oh, we'll probably get that next year.
Gotcha. And no, I'm just...
And I think that's about the standard answer. It wasn't me.
Because it truly is a subdivision up there, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all that is.
And it was Green Road. It's been green since, what'd they say, 1969? Or built in 1969?
It was built in 1969, but it's probably not been occupied since the late 70s, probably? I mean, it's been there a
I don't
long
know.
time.
That subdivision's probably been there about as long as any of them in the county.
It's been there a long time.
An actual subdivision.
Yeah.
It's been there, it's
But
been there a long time.
It only serves a subdivision. It doesn't serve the major populace of the entire county.
It doesn't follow our typical guidelines to build or improve roads that connect inner roads or outer roads to let the public access through them. That's been our goal, is to connect dots where there was no connection. Sometimes you do one, I guess. I mean, it happens, but in this case, we really don't get a lot of complaints up there. I mean, we keep it bladed, and we put gravel on it a couple of years ago. It's got some drainage issues. You don't drain very well. It does have snow removal problems because there's no place to put it, so they put it out in the road, which typically that tears up the chip seal too. So this would be a road that, in my opinion, would be a very good, strong candidate for mag chloride. We could go in, it's about 1 mile, and mag it, and probably take care of the dust issue, which is what I read in the
It was mostly dust is
yeah, and
what
so
their
we can
concern
manage
was.
that
So,
with mag chloride, so.
and then the 3 bullet points at the bottom of it was basically asking for just to communicate with them. And I think that we would probably be, I don't personally see us, especially with the cost of oil right now, ever being able to get up there to that
Not
little
this year.
subdivision.
No,
Not this year at all,
Well, again,
for
with
sure.
that, not this year, but,
But
you know.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So maybe,
But I have it in the budget for mag, if we want to put mag on it. We didn't do all of our mag this year. Some of the roads didn't need it with the weather we've been having. We regenerated a lot of old mag, and they're good for a year. So we have it in our budget to apply another mile of mag. If that would help them, I'd be happy to do that, so. Wouldn't be bother us a bit, so.
well, maybe you can just reach out to them.
I'll get hold of Dusty and see if
You
that'll help.
you guys figure it out and work on it, but, as far as asking to pave it, I'm not sure I could, how would we ever do that other than the major county roads that we're trying to facilitate right now?
There's this old saying, save the roads you got before you start another one, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, so.
I think, Rob, that some of the people coming up of there cutting around through there and then coming back out to 184 rather than turning right out on 184.
Oh, okay.
That's part of the issue too, is
Why would
because
you
the
do
people
that?
coming up
Up
there,
30?
rather than turning right out to 184, they're going in through the subdivision, coming out that other road
Oh, where it's
onto 180.
straight.
Yeah, where it's straight to 184, where they're not on that curve. I
Oh,
think people are
because of the
just doing
curve, I
that.
gotcha.
I mean, it is happening, that's happening. But, I mean, if you would justify doing something as far as mag chloride, that, even if
The
you
main-
did that part right there,
main-
I think that would help
A lot,
a lot.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because people are doing that.
Anyway,
You
just,
know,
it's worthwhile to have a conversation with them to make sure that we're communicating with them. And if we have that, that's
Well, that
something
would be
you
the
can look
first
at.
thing to start with that, mag chloride. And then the second part of this chip seal is you're going to see a significant speed increase.
Oh,
And
yeah.
generally, these little subdivisions have got kids and dogs and pets, and you just don't want to see that 25 miles an hour go to 40 miles an hour because it's chip seal, and it will. I'll promise you, so.
Yeah.
So that would be an issue that they should think about. But yeah, we have it in our budget to mag it this year, and we can certainly go up and I'll call Dusty and tell him we can do that for you, see if that'll help, so.
But I think even if you just done that main section
Main
through there,
section.
that's where probably the biggest
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
dust deal is, not so much on down in the actual subdivision.
Okay. Yep, very good point, Gerald. I'll double check with them and make sure.
Yeah.
You know, that maybe they don't want, some people don't like mag. I mean, a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't like dust, so you kind of got a mixed bag and try
Yeah.
to make it work, you know, so.
You can't make everybody happy?
No, I found that out, so.
Well, I think the first step is that we communicate with them.
Okay, I will,
And
yeah,
that's-
we're actually taking a tree down for Dusty that's, right on the edge of the cemetery. It's a dead tree out in the county easement, and we're removing that tree, so I'm kind of working with him on a tree, so I'll give him a call.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
All right, thank you, I appreciate it.
You betcha, no problem, so.
right.
Good,
Thank you.
okay, thanks.
Yep.
Thanks,
All right,
Rob.
next up, Bonnie. She was hiding over there in the corner. Noxious weeds.
I like the comfy chairs, not the wood planks. Just saying. All right.
There's a method behind that, you know.
What?
There's a method behind that.
Oh, so people don't hang around and watch you?
No, we want them all in the front.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Front row, yeah, it's pretty empty. We've been pretty dang busy. I asked Spratlin if we could declare a weed emergency. Weed disaster, because it's a weed disaster out there. April was super windy, half of May was super windy, so we're a month and a half behind on spraying. The weeds are probably 3 weeks ahead of their life cycle in previous years, so we're over probably 2 months behind compared to, you know, the ideal situation. But we're super busy. Next. All right, so some updates for you guys. Done 14 property visits. I also did a tour of the Mountain Ute Reservation and gave them a management plan proposal. Backpack loaner program is booming. This number says 55, but I'm sure it's probably 65, 70, you know, from the time that I did this report. We're getting a good system. We hand out the sprayers Wednesdays and Fridays, and it seems like 10 to 12 go out each Wednesday and Friday. So it's a pretty popular program. $10 a sprayer. Cost share, since when I did this report, we had 27 applicants. We've reimbursed $3,600. About 150 acres were treated through those cost share applications. Mapping noxious weeds. We've mapped noxious weeds on 369 properties. We've notified 320 of those properties. We've mapped noxious weeds on 48 properties within the Cortez city limits. We passed on the information to the code enforcer. Mark Tucker is working with us on developing mapping systems for the town of Dolores. They're also developing a noxious weed management plan, so that's going well. Month of May office calls. Sindel had 232 phone calls in May for weeds. She had 39 extension phone calls. Total outgoing 116, so she's staying plenty busy answering the phone calls. Next. Public outreach. We attended, we did Dolores School third graders. We did an introduction to noxious weeds and how weed seeds spread. We did an herbicide 101 seminar. About 10 people showed up. We did a seeding seminar. We had CSU Extension, High Desert Conservation District, and then Southwest Seed Company do presentations for that. We had about 40 people show up. Both of those presentations have been recorded and posted online if anybody's interested in watching those on YouTube. Social media, we've had about 3,700 people engaged in May's posts. All right, Hoary Crest. It's been a bad year for Hoary Crest. We've mapped 4,663 acres on 256 properties, and that's including the reservation Hoary Crest populations that we haven't mapped in the past. So over 70 properties with Hoary Crest this year have not been mapped on previous years, so these are suspected new infestations in 2023. 2016 to 2021, we've mapped about 2,600 acres of Hoary Crest, not including the reservation. This year, without the reservation, we've mapped 722. So things really aren't as bad as they look. We have a lot of new populations because every single seed has germinated in our county because of all the moisture. But overall, we're still seeing 70% control of all Hoary Crest populations that we've been mapping since 2015. So we're on the right road. As long as we stay diligent, aggressive with this species, I think we'll do fine. Still need to map Weber Canyon, some areas in Mancos, Jackson Reservoir, and a few other areas in Dolores for the Hoary Crest population. So that's kind of where we stand right now. Next. Here's a map of Hoary Crest populations. The ones that are teal green are populations that have been mapped between 2016 and 2021. The red are the populations that we mapped this year. So if you can imagine, if we haven't have been so aggressive with our management in the past, those green would be expanding right now. They'd still be there and they'd be expanding. Each hoary crest population has been documented to increase 15 feet in each direction in a single season. So if I enhanced those green polygons by 15 feet each year, it would be pretty significant. So we're moving in the right direction. We just got to stay on top of it, notifying people if we see this species, because a lot of people don't understand, well, they can't identify noxious weeds very well. So it's a good tool to use, that notification system. Next. Interestingly enough, we have two types of white top. I went to a property visit and it looked like white top, but just something wasn't right about it. Turns out it's a hairy white top versus our hoary crest or typical white top. So both these species are non-native and invasive. Hairy white top has been designated as a noxious weed in other states, but we really haven't seen a whole lot of it in Colorado. But just to be aware, there are two different types of white tops: very aggressive, perennial rhizomatous root system, aggressive. Seeds are very prolific, so we're keeping an eye on both these different species. Next. Leafy spurge. We've been battling the same populations since I began. Before I started work here in 2014, Don Morris was treating these same populations. Leafy spurge is hard to kill. We use different cocktails every year, and it just seems like it keeps coming back. Something new that we've done was included a pre-emergent, and I think that has helped significantly. So 2022, last year, we treated about 9 acres. This year, we treated 2.5 acres. So we're seeing improvements in that. However, I have seen 3 new populations of leafy spurge. So just like every other species, all the seeds are germinating, so we just got to stay vigilant, keep an eye out for this species. I need to try to contact those landowners to get in there and treat it right away before it just starts spreading like the other properties have. Spurges are very toxic. It has milky sap in the center. It also is interesting because it shoots the seeds. So it has a chemical reaction that shoots the seeds like 15 feet away from the plant. It's interesting. Siberian elms, they have now been designated as a noxious weed within Colorado. Previous other states have already had it designated. I think New Mexico was designated a bit, but in Colorado, it's just newly put on the noxious weed list. So it's just on the C list, recommending control and suppression. We're not mapping it yet. We're not doing notifications. I think our priority lies within the Russian olives and salt cedars. We don't see Siberian elms taking over waterways and causing the amount of damage that Russian olives and salt cedars do. So that's just kind of on the back burner right now. It's good to know. They're going to send letters out. The CDA is going to send letters out to the nurseries, making sure they're not selling these at nurseries. So that's always a good thing when they do designate species, at least on the C list, is it's prohibiting the sale. Russian olives and salt cedars, unfortunately, aren't designated in other states, so it's still legal to sell those in other states, which is a problem. Okay, next. Pharatophyte removal project. We're moving along pretty good. This year we've treated about 50 acres. In total, we've treated 472 acres. We've removed about 52,000 Russian olives, 63,000 salt cedars. So things are going good. Just waiting on some more funding, so hopefully eventually I can hire another person. One of my guys is getting a knee replacement pretty soon, so we're going to be down one guy. We'll just have to improvise and try to make things work without him.
So I got a question. So how do you calculate the removal of a Russian olive or a salt cedar? So 63,000, is it, I mean, how do you're not obviously counting every little
So every day,
sprout, but
oh yeah.
how do you quantify that? How do
Every
you
day
get
we
the-
got tickets. So the crews will document how many trees they're removing, and they are counting how many trees they remove. And they're also classifying them by their root collar diameter. So this is how we calculate the water savings, is based on diameter. So it's important they get me some accurate numbers of how many trees were removed 0 to 2 inches, 2 to 4 inches, 4 to 6 inches. So they're documenting all this every single day. And then at the end of the property, once they finish it, then I sit down or Sindel sits down and we process all of that information. So it's super accurate. We're not
Okay.
just estimating these densities. These are how many trees are actually removed.
Right, now that's what I wanted to know.
Yep.
So as you're cutting them, you're looking at the volume.
Yep.
The diameter.
hmm
Okay,
And that's the root color, so it's at the base.
right.
When you do like ponderosas, that's at breast height. That's just the DBH diameter at breast height, but we're doing the root color for these phreatophytes because they grow differently than obviously a pine tree.
Okay.
County weeds, I sprayed the Dolores yard, sprayed about 15 acres at the fairgrounds, should be looking pretty dang good. Donna's been spraying for white top and annuals. The wind has been causing a lot of issues. We've also had an increase in no spray properties. A lot of these properties are new property owners. So we have about, I want to say like 60 to 80 no spray properties. I think 80. And typically we have about 30 a year. So that's definitely increased this year. So Don's been handling the no spray properties. I've been doing the bare ground and pre-emergent applications in the Cortez district. I moved to Pleasant View yesterday and I'll be doing some work there. And then I will be moving to Mancus. Right now Don is down McElmo Canyon and then he's going to move to Mancus and then he will go to Pleasant View. But we're working as hard as we can when it's not windy. Oh, I said that. No spray agreements with about 66 properties. Okay. Next.
That's it?
Oh, that's all she wrote. That's all I got. I'm tired. We've been working very hard.
So how do you determine a Siberian elm from a regular elm?
There's differences. I mean, it's differences in thistles, differences in
Yeah.
knapweeds. There's just variances in the leaves.
Because I look at an elm and it's an elm.
Most of ours are Siberian elms.
Yeah.
So, and then they have all the Siberian elm beetles too, which get everywhere.
Do, when they list these on their, like on their noxious weed list, is there any economic data associated with as far as cost in controlling these or anything like that?
And that's something they've been saying that they're going to work on developing, and I think that's pretty essential.
I do too.
But they just haven't gotten to it. I don't know if it's just they're short-staffed or what have you, but that's been on their to-do list. Yeah, and then besides that, we're seeing a lot of Dalmatian toadflax, so I need to start mapping that. I don't know if you guys have been out north, but that stuff is blooming and it's everywhere. Canada thistle is going crazy right now. Musk thistle. Right now is a great time to treat pretty much anything. Any other preguntas? Nope. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on down, Mel. Landfill.
You have some pictures, Travis? The budget's pretty standard.
Carverfield.
Carverfield, so we always get twisters down there, but this is probably one of the most unique, straight up, perfectly formed dust devil that we've had down there. It just formed in one spot, twisted up, and then just disappeared in about 5 minutes. Okay, there's the Carverfield, that's our collection pond in the northwest corner. The subgrade is totally
Dust
done.
on the ground and snow on the mountains. That twister, dust on the ground and snow on the mountains.
So our subgrade's totally done. Randy Gouet with our surveyor came out Friday. He's got all his points done. He's sent all that up to the engineers. Right now, we're in a waiting stage for them to approve, make sure we got everything they need, that CDPHE won't throw a fit on before we start laying clay. We have the approval to lay all the clay down loose, not packed, wetted or anything. Once we get all the clay laid, we'll call the engineers back, roll it and pack it so they can get their test. Still waiting on the liner from Simbeck. They're having issues trying to get that in for everybody else. We're probably gonna be packing the clay start in the first week of July. That gives us plenty of time to get this all covered with the clay. We are using the one machine and scraper, which is currently down. We have a sensor issue with it or something. Waiting on John Deere to come and take a look at it. It just, something with a fuel rail or something that derates and shuts down on us, so we can't really do a whole lot. But it's there, there should be some more. It's a pond. And there's the pad. So I have to lay 6 inches of clay over that whole area. And it works very well, because when it rained a few weeks ago, it filled the pond full of water. Which shut us down for 10 days, I guess. We had to get the water out of the pond. But that's where we're at right now.
So I think I asked you this question yesterday, but we should have the clay liner down by the end of July
Yeah, the latest.
at the latest.
Yeah.
So we'll be looking at good
Unless
shape.
we have major mechanical issues, I mean, we'll have that, as soon as our tractor gets up and going again, we'll have him working on laying the clay every day. And it's only a 6-inch pad, so we'll be laying 9-10-inch slits across that. I mean, he can have that done in a couple of weeks.
So once that's laid and tested, the pad is ready to go. We'll just be waiting on the liner for the pond.
So we have to lay a foot of clay in that pond.
Yep.
And it has to be packed, and then it has to be rolled before they can lay the liner in that. Once they lay the liner, it's just a minimal fix around the edge of that pond, and it'll be done.
So then we're good to go.
Yeah.
So depending on when we get the liner,
I wanna have the liner before I'm done laying loose clay.
okay, good.
Jerry Coho's working on it, he's trying to get, the engineers want specific language on the testing of that liner from the manufacturer, and I think that's been kind of a holdup.
So basically what I'm getting at is we should be done with the whole pad by the end of July,
Yeah, absolutely.
unless we have some catastrophic failure with liner and/or equipment.
We put a small dirt berm around the pond right now, because it is supposed to start raining, keep the water out of it, so we don't have the same issue we had 2 weeks ago. And, it's just something we just laid out of the way and lay the clay when we're ready.
Okay,
Keep that pond dry.
looks good. It's a big field. If you haven't been down there and look at it, it's
It's nice
pretty
and flat.
impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're starting to have an issue, down at the landfill. It's something for you guys to just kind of think about. This is something that's been on the brochure and in the landfill since way back, but we charge a, late fee for people that come in after 4, $25 if not unloaded by 4:15, and it's $25 every 30 minutes additional to that. So if we've got somebody coming in at 4 and they're there till 4:45, we're only charging them $75 or $50. I've got 2 guys and 2 pieces of equipment running, that's not even covering the cost. Keep that landfill open that long. So it's something we might wanna think about changing that late fee, to every 15 minutes to help cover our costs with 2 operators and the equipment out there running.
What are your hours of operation?
8 to 4. And we close at 4,
And that's 6 days a week?
6 days a week. Half days on holidays.
Is it a huge problem? I mean,
It's getting worse. It's getting worse. The busier we're getting, the worse it's getting. Last week, for example, I went to close the south gate, which has our hours on, and they just drove around and came in. And we were there, right? Something to think about.
okay. Questions?
No. Looking good, Mel.
We're getting there. We have 2 inspections coming up at the end of the month, back to back.
How's the wind days?
It's been a very windy spring. Very windy, but thankfully here, well, it's 70 miles an hour down in North Carolina. But the last few weeks have been fine.
Maybe
Good.
we're out of the windy season a little bit.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Okay.
No. Thank you.
No. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, now we're gonna jump into our unfinished business. First on the agenda is we have our discussion as it's related to the fleet and the fleet costs and the fleet reduction. We had a presentation yesterday in our workshop by our vehicle maintenance director. And basically just looking at the costs that we're bearing for the leased vehicles, which are specifically mostly all the sheriff or emergency vehicles, all of the other vehicles that we have within the county, which we have on a 15-year replacement or 150-mile cycle. And the emergency vehicles we replace at 100,000 miles because of what they do. Currently, if we keep up this rate, we're looking over $500,000 just to keep the fleet in operation for the sheriff's department and $106,000 for everybody else. So looking at the tax situation of where we're at, and not really knowing if we're gonna be at a 6.95% tax rate for residential, if they take off the $40,000 that they're talking about coming off, and then moving it to 6.25 is going to be a pretty big reduction in our overall budget. So as we build our budgets this year, it's been recommended to build a budget at 6.95% and build it at 6.25, and probably realistically moving it to the 6.25 is what we're gonna have to live with, which is a big reduction in what we have. So looking at everything that we have to do, this was a presentation from the vehicle maintenance, Shane Higman, yesterday. Just putting it out there, and then it's basically our decision of how do we wanna cut it. So Travis and I took the liberty of talking to him. Right now, the sheriff allows patrol units, detectives, command, all of those people have a checked out vehicle. They have 34, it says 36, but I think he said 34. We're looking at, they work 3 days on, 4 days off. So basically all these vehicles are sitting outside of somebody's home, not in use. So is it possible to cut it by a third? It's probably very possible as a start. And then along with the rest of them, maybe make another couple pool vehicles and pull some of these other vehicles out. But you can see there are not very many of them. Obviously, the largest part of our fleet is in the sheriff's department. So that's a quick synopsis of it. Kind of basically open for discussion, and which way do you guys think we should head? I mean,
Well, I definitely think we're gonna have to look at all different alternatives as far as cutting back the number of these vehicles, what it's costing us every month, and especially if our income goes down with the way these taxes are now, it's gonna have to change. We're gonna have to change.
and also too, this is just for the vehicle. We were presented last week, 2 weeks ago, with the upfitting cost per vehicle. Some were ranging, I think we're right at $15,000 to $16,000, and that's not getting them home. We still have radios to put in them. We still have decals to put on them. So our estimation is right at $20,000 for an upfit. So even 10 vehicles, that's $200,000 just to upfit them. And we're only getting about 4 years out of the average cycle of a vehicle, which is about 25,000 per year. So I think the reduction is something that we're definitely going to have to consider, and we start with the third, as per his recommendation, to what we want to do, and we're going to have to look at it. We're going to have to build two budgets, just like what's been recommended, because we're not going to have the money to function with, and just for the vehicles, we're $500,000 just for that department.
Yeah, we're gonna have to cut the fleet.
So obviously, you don't have to make a decision on that today. It's food for thought, but it sounds like the direction is that we're gonna have to take a look at it and cut the fleet overall. Is that correct, Commissioner Copenhagen?
Yes.
All right. The next one, we're gonna go right by because I don't see any of the school districts in here. We'll leave it on the agenda. They will eventually get to us as it pertains to our SRS funding, Secure Rural Schools. And we're gonna turn it over to Kim. We had a discussion yesterday as it relates to the ballot print vendors. Kim, I'll turn this to you.
So basically, we just had some proposals for our print vendors for this year and the next year, and we're going to try and work on see if we can get a contract or an agreement from K&H. I talked to them yesterday, and he's going to send me to his legal department to see what we can come up with.
For an agreement or a contract?
Contract of some
Okay. Ian, we didn't have anything else to add to that, did we?
I don't have anything to add. I'll just continue to work with Kim and work with their legal department, and we'll get something drawn up.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Next, we also had this discussion yesterday, as it's related to the to the IGA for the transportation services for the town of Rico by Montezuma County. Was presented a couple of weeks ago by Jennifer. We did not like the numbers that were presented. She came back with this yesterday, so it's to cover our costs, it's $325 per trip. There's 2 trips monthly, and one is basically a medical trip, which is all covered by Medicaid. And so this is just a pilot program. It'll only be for 3 months. So I believe we have a resolution to make the decision on today, gentlemen. So what is your pleasure?
Well, and so I think at this point, we're going to have to redo the contractual language with the town of Rico. Jennifer emailed me this morning and said that because we had talked about the upfront payment and the necessity of getting the money on the front end. And so I got an email from Jennifer this morning. She reached out to the town of Rico. They're going to put that idea before their town board on the 21st of this month. And so she asked that we table it until after the Rico town board meets.
Okay, well then, if you gentlemen don't have any issues, we'll table it until after the 21st.
It's fine.
Okay. All right. Then we also had our public health department come in for a signing of the retail food and child care inspection contract. Gentlemen, what's your pleasure on this one?
Yeah, I would so move we sign the retail contract with the state of Colorado, which is 23 FAA 00035.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded to sign the task order between the state of Colorado and Montezuma County. The master task order is 23 FAA 00035. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. We also had a presentation and a conversation over our landfill vouchers. Jessica. Sorry. Too many J's going on in my head right now. If you want to come down and give a little bit more description of this. We had set aside funds this year to try and help out some of the residents who don't have the financial resources to try and pick up trash in our county. This is somewhat of a voucher program that we are looking at launching. It was discussed yesterday. Some changes will be made to this. Specifically, the largest change was we wanted to only allocate 25% of those funds to this voucher program, and then reach out to some of the bigger problems that we already have identified as this commission to help those people get those properties cleaned up in Montezuma County. So anything else you would like to add to that?
I don't think so. I think we just have some errors that we need to fix on that flyer, since it is just a draft, and make some changes to that. But we will go ahead and do the 25 and 75%. We'll go from there.
Okay. Gentlemen.
Or we can scrap it and do something different.
Yesterday was
We
just a
just need that
discussion. We
direction.
don't, we will make
Uh-huh.
the decision today if we want to stay with the 25, 75. That was just our discussion as of yesterday, so. Or we can change it.
I guess what concerns me a little bit is how are we gonna pick who gets the vouchers? I mean, it looks to me like, are we just gonna hand them out for whoever comes in? Is that what your intent was?
That's my intent, yes, as long as they can show an ID and proof of residency within Montezuma, in incorporated areas of Montezuma County. And it'll be a first come, first serve. Because that was my concern about the problem properties, is how would we decide who gets what? And
And we spent a good hour and a half just beating that horse to death, just talking about who would get the voucher, how we would process it,
who has the capacity?
who has the capacity.
I mean, at the end of the day, my job is economic development. I'm already spread really thin.
Yeah.
I don't have the capacity to be the dumpster diva and patrol dumpsters and who gets what, or what, when it comes to these vouchers. I mean, this is kind of the easiest way that we have as to get it out into the community and like I mentioned yesterday, efficiently start to spend those funds. If we want to table it and we can workshop it again, I'm more than happy to do that. This hasn't obviously been released to anybody.
I don't think that. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we can use 25% of this money and go this route, see how it works out for a year. I have no problem going that way. What do you guys?
Well, why don't we, because this is preventative, it's not dealing with the properties that we've already identified, but the 75% will be allocated to that. This is only good for one load.
Mm-hmm.
So if we even help one load of trash get to the landfill by cleaning up our county, I think it's worthwhile in a preventative manner. How do you, I mean, if we're helping the entire county get cleaned up, I think it's a step in the right direction. Whether you have the financial resources or not, it's still, it's a benefit to the entire county. So I like what you just stated, Commissioner, that, if we try it and see where it takes us, and we could do a pilot. We could do it for 3 months and see where it takes us, or 6 months, the rest of the year.
Well, if you look, the vouchers need to be expended. I put on there August 31st.
Okay, so then there you go.
And so we'll be able to tell by the end of August whether or not, 'cause
3 months.
You okay?
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like you have a decision. The only thing, again, I would like to see that word "free" taken off of there, because it should just say.
That flyer will be readjusted. There's some
landfill
other
vouchers.
typos on there too.
Okay.
So we'll get that taken care of.
Next, we have a decision on the letters of interest that were submitted for the Lewis Cemetery District. We have two, one from Bill Gilliland and Melanie Filener, who were both on that. board and have submitted letters wishing to stay on that board. We've received no others, Travis, as far as, so we have these two that we can take action on today, gentlemen.
You okay?
Yes.
I move we reappoint Billy Gilliland and Melanie Fowler back on the cemetery board for, it's under Lewis, for Lewis Cemetery Board, I guess is how it's stated.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to reappoint Billy Gilliland and Melanie Fowler to the Lewis Cemetery Board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, next we had a presentation yesterday in our workshop for a jail-based behavioral services contract, the JBBS. Ian, do you have anything?
I don't have anything to add. I did look through these. We talked about the jail-based behavioral services program yesterday. It's a real benefit to a lot of folks who are incarcerated. They go in and they provide substance abuse counseling and mental health counseling to individuals that are in jail. Access provides the service. So there's two agreements here. There's a professional services agreement with Access to provide the services, and then there's the agreement with the state of Colorado. They're the ones that provide the funding for the program. I don't really have anything to add. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. Commissioners, questions?
I don't have any.
Okay.
I would so move we sign the agreement between the State of Colorado Department of Human Services for jail-based behavioral services. It's CMS number 24 IBEH 182070, and also the agreement between Montezuma County Sheriff's Office and Access Health for the professional services agreement to provide those services, jail-based behavioral health.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to sign the State of Colorado Department of Human Services contract with, as it relates to the Montezuma County Sheriff's Department, in the amount of $217,695 for the JBBS, and also the professional services agreement between Montezuma Sheriff's Office and Access for providing these services. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then next, I'll send this one to Ian. It's a resolution regarding 23303 as it relates to the Colorado Proposition HH.
So we discussed this in our workshop a little bit yesterday. This is a resolution, in essence, supporting Advance Colorado, which is a third-party organization in its litigation concerning Senate Bill 23303 and Proposition HH. As we talked about yesterday, this organization is going to take up litigation. There are several counties in Colorado that have joined the litigation. There are also counties in Colorado that have voiced opposition to the litigation, or to the Proposition HH and to the Senate bill. What this resolution does is this just expresses support for Advance Colorado's opposition to Senate Bill 23303 and Proposition HH. And so we wouldn't be joining a lawsuit at this time, but that's what this does. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I don't have any.
So, as we discussed yesterday, we have two options. Either join the lawsuit, well, actually, we have three options. Do nothing, join the lawsuit, or make our statement through a resolution. So really, I think that's what's in front of us today. Is which direction do you guys want to head?
Well, I think Ian's correct. The resolution just, at least we're not in the actual lawsuit and having somebody else talking for us as a county, but at least we're making a statement that we're not for this Senate bill either.
Well, and I think what this I mean, I think the problem with this proposition, and I think at the heart of the legal challenge to this proposition, is it's deceptive in that it purports to give tax relief for property taxes. But the other part of that is that the state gets to hold on to Tabor refunds. And so more money stays in state coffers. And yeah, there's a small amount of refund that's given to taxpayers, but it's not as if those Tabor refunds are coming back to the counties. Those are going other places. And so that's the problem with the bill. It's somewhat deceptive. I mean, it advertises itself as tax relief for the local taxpayers, and it is, but it's a very small amount of tax relief compared to what's not getting given back.
Right, those monies are in excess of almost $4 billion that they want to shuffle off to the side and keep, and that belongs to the taxpayers of the state, not to the state itself. So I'm ready to sign the resolution.
And I definitely think that a resolution making our statement in opposition of this is probably the best interest of the county also.
Yeah, and the state is not supposed to propose legislation that is deceptive like this. There was a clean bill amendment put through the state a number of years ago. I'm pretty sure Scott Tipton either authored it or co-authored it, sponsored it, to make everything stand out on its own legs. So I would move we sign resolution, what is it, Kim, 13?
13.
Whereas the Senate Bill 23-303 was hastily enacted by the General Assembly on the last day of the 2023 legislative session with prior consultation with local governments. And it goes on, but I move we sign this.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to sign resolution number 13, 2023, a resolution in support of Advanced Colorado and its commencement of litigation concerning Senate Bill 23-303 and Proposition HH. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And with that, we have all of our unfinished business taken care of. Next, we have new business. We have a liquor license, and we have Ms. Frizzell here with us.
Hi.
Good
My name is
morning.
Jerry Frizzell from Montezuma County Clerk and Recorders. I do the liquor license renewals for Montezuma County. I have one for Eagle Claw Trading Post and Liquor Store. Also a Schroeder, Colorado Incorporated, located at 4321 South US Highway 160, Cortez, Colorado. And I have a letter from the sheriff saying they've had no misbehaviors or any incidents with the store.
All right.
I move we approve this. You okay? You guys
Yeah.
okay with it? Okay. I move we approve the Eagle Claw Trading Post and Liquor Store renewal for Colorado beer and wine license at 4321 South US 160, Cortez, Colorado.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept and sign the retail renewal application by Eagle Claw Trading Post and Liquor Store located at 4321 US 160 Cortez, Colorado. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And next we have an executive session.
Real quick, Commissioner, our Economic Development has another meeting. Can she give her presentation just real fast? I don't
Sure.
think it's.
Yeah. Okay, we'll jump from our agenda real quick and we'll go to Jessica Thurman.
Do you have my little PowerPoint? If not, it's not the end of the world. There you go. So the first thing first is that we had our community meeting on May 18th, where Attorney General Phil Weiser came down. He spoke after his grocery store merger conversation. We had a pretty great community turnout. We were able to break off into our action teams for the implementation of our roadmap / Montezuma Community Collective project. Those action teams are working to identify projects and solidify what their next steps may be. For instance, our housing team is working on kind of an education plan for the community to understand what we're all doing in regards to housing, what are some of those vocabulary terms that we're using all about housing, and trying just to get messaging out. So that is one group that is moving along. Some of the other ones we're kind of in a stage where we're looking at trying to do an asset mapping of what is going on in the community as of right now to not duplicate. James and I, we had our outdoor recreation community engagement meetings. Those are also very well attended. We've got some pretty interesting feedback from folks, and we're looking forward to see how our consultants continue to put that report together to look at what our assets are regarding to outdoor recreation and how we can do that responsibly. Our flea markets have been very well received. They've been very well attended. It's been a pretty neat experience to be out there and get to interact with some of those entrepreneurs that are having small businesses, as well as the amount of contacts that Justin is able to contact. We've had a couple people go and look at the commercial kitchen and interested in renting the kitchen while we're out there. So it's done everything that we wanted it to do. We've had vendors come in from out of state. We've had people come in from out of state to come visit. We've had just all around really great feedback. So those are going really well. And then for our grant updates, we did receive the Economic Development Organization Action Grant, which I will use to build out a community perspective. So we'll work with the tribe as well as the other municipalities to create some marketing and business resources for Montezuma County. We did not receive the Colorado Opportunity Now funding grant that I spoke with you guys, and then we signed the MOU. We did a lot of work on that one. So we were kind of sad we didn't get it, but we still were invited to apply for the next round. It was extremely competitive. And then in the pipeline, we have a couple others that we're working on too, and looking at applying and identifying some projects that we can utilize for those. And then I just wanted to identify some higher level things. I've been busy with a bunch of other little meetings here and there, but I was able to, at the end of April, attend the National Association of Development Organizations, that conference in Denver. It was a great conference. I was able to connect to some of our federal partners as well as some of our neighboring counties in Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona. So I've been able to form some working relationships with them. I was also able to have some excellent conversations with Bernadette from Ute Mountain Ute Tribe, who I attended it with. I was asked to speak at the Roadmaps Ideas to Action Exchange about our implementation plan for Montezuma Community Collective. DOLA had asked me to speak about that because they're wanting to implement that project in some of the other Roadmaps communities. So I thought that was pretty neat. The Southwest Opioid Response District, otherwise known as SWORD, we're moving along with that. Just an update for you guys is that we should have that feasibility study from HMA, which is the consultants that was hired to look at how we're going to be utilizing those funds. We should have that completed this month, so within the next month or so, you guys should be getting some more information on that. The Southwest Education Collaborative, they hosted a summit in Durango a couple weeks ago. I attended, and that was pretty neat to see what they're doing to connect the schools as well as to industry partners and business partners to create those pathways for kids to get to work quicker and more efficiently. Colorado Department of Labor and Employment, I've had quite a few meetings with them in the past couple weeks. I also presented to them the Montezuma Community Collective model. They're working closely with us on that. And also just looking at what other programs we can bring to our community, such as CDL driving and other workforce development opportunities. And then tons of housing meetings. I've been working really hard to support our municipalities in their efforts to address housing, and then looking at what what role our county plays in that effort too. So that's a really high level view of kind of my last month and a half, but there's that. Any questions, or I'll let you guys get to executive session?
Well, actually, I have a couple questions. They were actually brought up in public comment today.
Sure.
So the survey that was sent out, whether it be online and or through cards, it sounds like that's being able to be taken multiple times and submitted by each individual.
I did hear that during public comment, and we will talk to our consultants about that to see why, or if there's a way that they can ensure that that doesn't happen and people can't go back and take it multiple times. That was more for us to utilize as kind of just to gauge people's understanding and what they would like to see for housing in the community. We're not using it for anything set in stone or anything like that. We were just trying to gauge what the community was thinking when involving
And
housing.
when does that survey complete? When does it end?
Here shortly. I'm not sure of the date though.
Okay. Also, give me a minute. Also, so in the survey, is it mostly just about affordable, or is it low income? That was also brought up, because I didn't hear anything about low income housing in it. It was just affordability.
So I actually went through the survey yesterday, and I did not see the word affordable. We looked, in affordable and low income aren't necessarily are not mentioned repeatedly in that survey.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. I mean, we're talking about obtainable housing, and when we're talking about obtainable housing in the community, we're talking about workforce housing. It's not necessarily affordable housing. It's housing for our police officers, for our teachers, for our nurses. So we can continue to have schools and hospitals.
So the term still is what we were looking at as workforce housing. It wasn't for low income.
No.
It wasn't for,
There's no.
affordability is different for every person. We've had that
Exactly.
conversation before, so, okay. And then also too, I want to make a clarification. The city can't annex anything just by themselves. It takes two willing partners. It takes a willing participant and a city. So the fear of having, the city is just going to start annexing things, that doesn't happen. That can't
No.
happen. It has to have two participants to be able to annex anything. So just to make sure that fear is a fear that's not, everybody thinks that's, oh my God, this is going to happen. It can't happen. It has to have two participants that are willing. So just to make that clarification. And that's all that I have, Jessica. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Commissioners?
I don't have anything.
Okay.
All right. Thank
All
you.
right, thanks.
Thank you. Ready?
Yep.
All right, I would so move. We go into executive session for a conference with the attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions under CRS Section 24-6-402, parentheses 4, parentheses B.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to go into executive session for a conference with the attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions under CRS Section 24-6-402, parentheses 4, parentheses B. Included in that executive session will be the clerk, Ms. Purcell, Commissioners Copenhaver, Candelaria, Lindsay, Attorney McLaren, and Administrator Anderson.
And the purpose of the purpose of the executive session will be to discuss matters related to the janitorial contract between Montezuma County and CARE.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 move we come out of executive session.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to exit executive session and continue our regular meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are down now to our county attorney's report. Ian.
Give me 1 second, I'm trying to get back into my system as well. So, biggest thing to update since last meeting, Ironwood did file with the court for an extension of the deadline for removal of the pile. That deadline in a stipulated injunction was the last day of May. CDPHA and the county, we filed a joint opposition to that request, and the court denied their request for an extension. And so as of this date and time, there is still material at the pile, and Ironwood is in violation of the stipulated injunction. CDPHE and I are working on drafting a motion to for contempt. We're going to have that filed by the end of this week. CDPHE is sending their inspector down. He'll be here tomorrow to inspect the pile and confirm that they are in fact in violation. And so that's where we are in that matter. As you guys remember, if Ironwood is found to be in contempt of that stipulated injunction order, they can be fined up to $10,000 a day. And so we will, the process moving forward is that contempt motion will be filed. Then the court issues a citation for contempt and then sets a contempt hearing. And so I'm not sure what the timing of that will be. My hope would be to get a contempt hearing in before the end of June. I think that's what CDPHE is aiming for as well. And so we will move forward with that. I received discovery responses in our Ellis Lewis land use case. Pretty extensive discovery request that I sent out to them and got some responses back. And so after looking at those responses, I will move forward with a motion for summary judgment in that case. That is due at the end of the month as well, so I'm working on that. And I'll certainly update you on the results of that motion. The county attorney conference is this week in Crested Butte. It goes Thursday through Saturday, and so I'll be out of the office for those days, but we'll have connectivity to email, and we'll be working from Crested Butte. That's always a good conference to go to. It's really work-oriented, a lot of attorneys from small counties just like ours, and it's a lot of roundtabling and discussing issues that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. Handled an unemployment benefits hearing last week. Still waiting for results on that, but we continue to get these unemployment hearings set. You know, it seems like at this point the default in Colorado is when somebody is terminated, they're awarded unemployment benefits, and the onus falls on the employer to appeal that decision. And so, you know, it's certainly interesting. I don't know that that's the way that the system was set up to work. I mean, I think that generally the law says that if you're terminated for cause, that you're not entitled to unemployment benefits. In other words, if you violate a company policy or put the employer at risk somehow through your bad actions, you can't get those benefits. You know, what's interesting is, at least at that first level, the default is that you're entitled to benefits. It's not what the law says, but that's the reality on the ground. And so we're having to appeal more of these and their phone hearings, and we'll continue to do that and move those through. Other than that, I don't have anything to report at this point. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Anderson.
Last week I was at CCI, good conference, got a lot of good information. Talked about importance and value of local government, which is, I think, paramount, because you start getting the state and the federal government involved and it just becomes a mess. So A lot of local government discussions. Talked about budgeting, being, having good governance and good public policy. So basically, be fiscally responsible with the stakeholders' funds. A big discussion on the property tax, which I've been chasing all week. The Proposition HH, the 303, and then the 213, and how that's going to affect us for 2024. We met with Leslie this morning. It's still up in the air. We don't know what the rates are going to be. Is it 669, 625? Backfill, there was a big discussion on backfill funding. Don't expect backfill funding from the state if this passes. We're just not going to get it. So tomorrow or Thursday, we'll be having a final discussion with the town of Dolores on Dolores contract with for law enforcement services. I think we got some options for them, and they've got some ideas. So hopefully we'll have a conclusion with that. And then the biggest thing for fees is our fees are going to go up a little bit for CCI every year. So it's not a significant amount, but it's going to go up, and then every year it'll be 1.5% thereafter. So yeah, just really good conference.
All right, thank you, Travis. And then to my left today, Commissioner Copenhagen.
Since we last met, I attended the Mancus Town meeting. They were discussing a couple of different segments of their land use policies and stuff in the town. I didn't stay for all of that, but gave a report on what was going on with here at the county and as far as Southwest and AAA. We also, we had a AAA meeting, but we didn't have enough people there to have a quorum, so we could not pass the budget or anything. So we're going to have to meet again here in the next, I think we have another meeting set up here in June to, hopefully we'll get enough people there to pass the budget, because we didn't even have enough to do that at the last meeting. So we did go through a bunch of stuff and discuss some different issues and where the funding is and basically what's about what level it's going to be and stuff. Other than that, I had a meeting with Southwest last week, and basically it was to discuss our representation to that Colorado Work Task Force as far as the Colorado River issues go. Southwest gets one representative from Southwest, so we put Steve Wolf, our manager, forward in that position. And then they put my name forward as our water shareholder and as a participant. But you have to, that all goes to I think the Senate Majority Leader has to appoint that position. So they put my name forward to that. We had 3 or 4 applications for that position, and there's a couple others. One's a municipal water supplier. We did not move anybody forward in that one because we were waiting to get some more applications, see if we get some more applications for municipal water supplier. But we did put my name and Steve Wolf's name forward, as sent letters for that. And then basically it was, that whole meeting was discussing the different part of that, and it's gonna involve a lot of time if you get on that thing, because it's gonna start in July and run through the end of the year, and there has to be, I forget how many meetings in that much time, a bunch. So,
busy.
But a lot of it can be done virtually, so should be able to handle it. And that's about all I have to report.
Okay, very good. To my right.
Yes, 2 weeks ago, I was unable to attend the city council meeting. I was honored to give out $10,000 scholarships to students at MCHS from Empire Electric. So I took that night and took care of that. Saw quite a few amazing kids. There's quite a group of kids graduating out of that high school. So congratulations to them. I did look at the agenda. They just renewed some liquor licenses and approved like a car wash. And that was about the size of it. Really, it looked like it was a pretty short meeting. I did attend a Housing Solutions meeting via Zoom last week, and everything is coming along pretty well with Housing Solutions. They've got some good money, got some good reserves, so. And also, I attended the American Legion Memorial Day ceremonies out at the Legion. They put on a really good program, and also let people know that this week is rodeo week. So get out your Western duds and head out to the rodeo carnival and have a good time. And one last note, veteran suicide touched our family last week. And I encourage you to do the brave thing. And if you're thinking along those lines, please call somebody for help. There's veteran suicide line. There's hotlines. Just talk to somebody. Do the brave thing and let somebody know. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. My report is going to be relatively short this week. We had a CCI legislative wrap-up via Zoom, just a couple-hour meeting, but we basically went over the bill table of everything that was passed, and then now it's up to us to figure out how we're going to work within all of these new bills that have been passed. Obviously, yesterday we had our workshop. A lot of the issues that we have taken care of today have been discussed as it related to our workshop, and that's all I have to report. So with that,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
been moved and seconded to adjourn this June 6, 2023 meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.